Boomer and millennial debate continues, but I gotta tell you, boomers, you got it good. You own 53% of our nation's wealth. We have $147 trillion and you own 53% of it. The silent generation has 17%, which is 24 trillion. You have 53%, which is 77 trillion. Gen X 25%, which is 36 trillion. And then us millennials, we have 5%, which is 7 trillion. But here's where it gets interesting. There are 55 million silent generation, 69 million boomers, 65 million Gen Xers, and 72 million millennials. So if we played a fun little game where we redistributed the wealth equally amongst each person's generation, the silent generation, every person would get $436,000. The boomers would have $1.1 million apiece. Gen X would have $553,000 apiece. And us little whiny millennials that you like to say we're always crying, we would have $97,000 apiece. So every generation could buy the average home in America in cash and still live a great life if we were redistributed it equally. The millennials, however, wouldn't even have enough for a 20% down payment with closing costs for the average home in America.
See?
So things like this is why we complain and we talk about our struggles, because it's clearly not going in the right direction, and we just want people to be aware of that.
Telling me a car's necessary.
Of course it's necessary.
Why?
Because we live in an era where cars are necessary to get around.
Why?
Because we do. That's just the point.
That's
Young people face harder challenges than previous generations.
So I live with my parents,
Right.
and I'm 23.
Right.
And
Do you work?
Yes.
Yeah, presumably you're not paying any rent or mortgage or anything.
I am paying rent.
When I first got my first house, it probably only cost about £23,000 or something, but then I was only earning £300 a year. We worked hard, and we didn't have a car, and we didn't have a colour telly.
You didn't
There's
need.
a sense of entitlement
It's
there
different.
that they expect to have things like cars, holidays, phones, a certain standard of living, which they haven't earned.
So I have a car.
You have a
Petrol
car,
prices have
yeah.
increased.
So you don't have to have a car, do you?
Yes, you
get a
do.
bus.
No.
Okay, yeah, but that's how I choose to spend my money.
Exactly, but then you're saying that you don't have enough money because that's your choice as to what you spend your money on, as to what you see as necessary.
Prices.
You're telling me a car's
Nowhere
necessary?
near- Of course it's necessary.
Why?
Because we live in an era where cars are necessary to
Facts.
get around.
Facts.
Because we do. That's
Why?
just the point.
So what other alternatives are there then?
Well, you're missing the point.
We didn't have a car
the
until...
world's evolved from then
Yes,
to
but
now.
you can't manage without a car.
We've got to put this argument to bed once and for all. If a boomer was 30 years old in 1990 versus a 30-year-old millennial in 2025, did the boomer actually have it easier? In 1990, the median household income was $30,000. A mortgage and utilities was about $1,100 a month. Groceries for a family of four on a budget was $350. Health insurance $150. Car $150. Insurance $40. Gas $60. Student loans, I'm going to put at $0. Because if they're 30 in 1990, they went to school in the mid-70s. School was a couple $1,000s. Most did not take out student loans, and I think that's fair to have that at $0. And daycare, again, most people in 1990 did not have daycare for two children, but those who did, let's say around $400 to be fair. Total monthly expenses, $2,250. $30,000 after taxes monthly is only $2,050. So a boomer at 30 years old raising a family was about $200 short. So it was a struggle, kind of paycheck to paycheck. But now if we look at a 30-year-old in 2025, mortgage and utilities about $3,000, groceries $1,000, family of four, health insurance $600, used car $400, insurance $150, gas $150, student loan $450, and the big one, daycare $2,200 a month for two children, plus a $200 cell phone, which the 1990 boomer didn't have. We're looking at $8,150. Take-home pay on the 85K after taxes is only $5,800. So a millennial today is short $2,350. This is why they are stuck renting and putting off having children, because this is hard enough to even do by themselves. And the other thing I didn't mention is the non-mortgage debt. Back in 1990, the 30-year-old might have had a car for $4,000 and a credit card for $1,000, holding $5K of debt. A millennial today has about $80K. Used car, credit card, and student loans. So the weight of that debt, plus being this far behind.
That's crazy.
But this example shows why the boomers are also always saying, like, no, guys, it was not easy. It was fucking hard. It was. It's definitely hard for both of us, but it's definitely was easier for them and harder for us.
See?
How much did you pay for your first house?
I'm not interested.
Boomers have
I'm
such
not
a hard
interested.
time believing that Gen Z and millennials are having a hard time paying for their houses. Look what this boomer said. Of course young people can afford a home. Just move somewhere cheaper. She goes on to say, when I bought my
Out of
first
touch.
property, going abroad, the EasyJet, coffee, gym, Netflix, lifestyle didn't exist. Which implies that these are the main draws on young people's finances. But boomers are incredibly wrong. And this article reveals a shocking truth that may surprise you. In it, they basically say that boomers are so out of touch with the current economy that they way overinflate the cost of millennials and Gen Z having fun. Let me give you an example. Netflix is like $15 a month. Starbucks maybe $150. Chipotle maybe $200. Internet connection nowadays in a smartphone probably costs as much as a landline phone bill would have cost 40, 50 years ago. Boomers still think that flat screen TVs like this cost thousands and thousands of dollars because they think it's new technology. The biggest problem with all of this is, more importantly, older generations never actually made smarter financial decisions.
Right.
There was no system that they gamed. They were at the right place at the right time.
That's it.
Lucky to be born during their time period when housing was actually affordable.
Had nothing to do with hard work.
80 cents a gallon. No.
Boomer and millennial debate continues, but I got to tell you, boomers, you got it good.
What?
You own 53% of our nation's wealth. We have $147 trillion, and you own 53% of it. The silent generation has 17%, which is $24 trillion. You have 53%, which is $77 trillion. Gen X, 25%, which is $36 trillion. And then us millennials, we have 5%, which is $7 trillion. But here's where it gets interesting. There are 55 million silent generation, 69 million boomers, 65 million Gen Xers, and 72 million millennials. So if we played a fun little game where we redistributed the wealth equally amongst each person's generation, the silent generation, every person would get $436,000.
Bruh.
The boomers would have 1.1 million apiece. Gen X would have $553,000 apiece. And us little whiny millennials that you like to say we're always crying, we would have $97,000 apiece. So every generation could buy the average home in America in cash and still live a great life if we were redistributed it equally. The millennials, however, wouldn't even have enough for a 20% down payment with closing costs for the average home in America. So things like this is why we complain and we talk about our struggles, because it's clearly not going in the right direction, and we just want people to be aware of that.
I still believe the war in this country is boomers versus millennials, and I'll never let go of that. Now, I know I've had pushback on this subject. I know I've had people say it's not all boomers. I do agree with you, but the ones who do control our resources specifically have an issue with millennials.
Yep.
And why is that? Well, 15, 20 years ago, when the bulk of us were getting ready to go into higher education, all we were told was that your only option in this country is a college education.
Yep.
They even told us things like trade schools. Don't do that.
Yep.
You should pursue an education
They finagled
at
us.
university and do whatever you have to do to make that a reality. But little did we know, by then the higher education system had been turned into an industry focused on predatory loans
Yep.
and high interest rates, things that would keep us in debt even after we got out of college, things that our parents and grandparents never experienced when they sought their education.
Bingo.
And now the certain boomers feel like it is time for them to check out of this world altogether. They don't want to leave without sticking it to millennials one more time. You want to garnish our wages? You want to go after the loans that you told us to take out, that you told us to invest in to go to college. And before I hear you guys say, well, why did you get degrees in dumb things that don't make money?
Y'all
You
told us
do
to.
that too.
They told
If
us
you are
to.
in your 30s and you remember what school was like, they told you to follow your dreams, become whatever you want to become
Correct.
in this world, because this country allows you to do so. And we did that.
The American
We did that
dream.
because we trusted the people leading us in that direction.
Right.
We did that because we trusted that the boomers who were telling us to become whatever we wanted had laid the groundwork for us to eventually push this country forward. But little did we know, most of them were lying. Little did we know, most of them were telling us that stuff with resentment.
Yep.
They were jealous of the fact that we wanted to think for ourselves. We didn't want to just blindly follow the institutions that we saw betraying us as we got older. Institutions that they ran, by the way, that they ran into the ground. And like I've always maintained, because we don't give those boomers this inherent respect that they feel entitled to,
Right.
they are telling us that we are going to make life as difficult for you as possible, difficult in a way that we never experienced. And we're going to say it's your fault. All I have to say, if these people are serious about garnishing wages, try it. I want to see you do it, because you're going to find out that those returns will not produce the results that you think it will. And we are not going to bow down to you in any way, shape, or form. We are the future of this country. We are the future of this society. And whether you like it or not, time is on our side. And that's the thing that pisses off these boomers the most. They don't have
time. Facts. Facts. Hey, welcome to the channel. Don't forget to like the video, man. Let's recap, because this is a good one. I want to start off with this chart right here. All of these figures are accurate. You can't dispute the numbers, okay? Who just using, I'm not a mathematician, I'm not a political science major. You don't have to have any of that to understand basic math. Look at the figures in front of you, okay? Who on this chart is holding the much, who has control of the amount of wealth? Who has the most amount of wealth on this whole chart? Okay? Silent, most of them are not here anymore, or they're on the edge of life, right? 24 trillion. Boomers own 77 trillion. And then you want to say millennials aren't working with the 7 trillion because they're holding all of the equity. Look at that. It's right there. You can't ignore the figures, bro. That's why I inserted this video 2 different times, right? To emphasize the numbers. Look, and this is not even including Gen Z, right? Because Gen Z, I think that there's some I don't think Gen Z gets a lot of credit for their awareness on this topic too, but I'm gonna touch on that as well. Shouts outs to Gen Z. Listen, millennials don't got a problem with you guys. We love y'all. We taught y'all most of what y'all have right now, right? So you got the numbers right there in front of you, but I wanted to particularly go back to this video with this lady here. They got kind of strong British accents, but you can hear it. Hold on. Let's go.
A car's necessary.
Of course it's necessary.
Why?
Because we live in an era where cars are necessary to get around.
Why?
Because we do. That's just the point.
Young people face harder
The fact that she has to explain that. Okay. For example, I think I've mentioned this couple before. I'm not going to say their name. Right? When we ran on, me and my family ran on financial hardships. Okay. It is almost impossible. Can you make it work? Yes. It is almost impossible to share vehicles in this current economy and where we're at in the year 2026. It is damn near impossible to do unless you guys work in the same location. It is almost impossible to be fully functional as a family with one vehicle unless you have a husband or wife that works from home, and even then it's still tough. Millennials, pretty much everybody needs their own transportation, and you need your own form of communication. You can't have a house phone. You can, but you can't physically rely on a house phone to get the information to you and be accessible as you would with not having your cell phone. Cell phones are pretty much a part of people now. Identities and everything. Right? So that's the disconnect that I have with a lot of boomers is their lack of understanding, because you were able to do it in your situation that we can do it now. No, you cannot function. Sorry for yelling. You cannot function. A family cannot function in that manner nowadays. You need 2 forms of transportation. Everybody needs their own cell phone because the way the world is moving way faster than what it was. Technology is moving. Information is moving. Something that happens at 7 a.m. can be completely different than it is at 7 p.m. You know what I mean? So that's where the argument for boomers falls apart for me. Just because you and yours made it work because your ass was able to stay home for 10 years and he went out and worked 2 jobs because you was too shitting to go in X, Y, and Z, that's not the current circumstances. In order for this to work, like, okay, I'll explain my day, right? I'll explain my day, okay? Get up at 5:45, 6 o'clock. Got to get the kids ready, X, Y, and Z. We out of the house at 7:20. Drop the first one off before 7:45. The second one gets dropped off immediately after at 7:55. They're not too far away from each other. Drive and commute to work. Now, the spouse is already at their place of employment at 8 o'clock. I'm still driving to mine. I don't get to my place of employment, my place of where I work, because I work for myself. I don't get there until about 8:15, 8:20, right? So already, that sharing vehicle shit just fell apart. Boom, that shit is done, right? Now, do you think with how things are that you can share, cell phones in 2026? Forget the house. Okay, forget that. But forget not having house phones. Can you share a cell phone? That it's not something that, oh well, you know, da 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 da. Yes, have I went a month without having actual cell phone service? Yes, but I'm still able to access Wi-Fi to still do the same things. Wi-Fi is needed. Wi-Fi is more important now than house phones were back then, if not just as important. So that's where that argument for me with the boomers falls apart. You know, they're saying, you know, you don't need it. No, we do need it. Hold on.
Challenges than previous generations.
So I live with my parents,
Right.
and I'm 23.
Right.
And
Do you work?
Yes.
Yeah. Presumably you're not paying any rent or mortgage or anything.
I am paying rent.
When I first got my first house, it probably only cost about £23,000 or something, but then I was only earning £300 a year. We worked hard and we didn't have a car and we didn't have a colour telly. I think there's a sense of entitlement there that they expect to have things like cars, holidays, phones, a certain standard of living which they haven't earned.
So I have a car.
You have a
Petrol
car,
prices have
yeah.
increased.
So you don't have to have a car, do you? You could get the bus.
Okay, yeah, but that's how I choose to spend my
Exactly,
money.
but then you're saying that you don't have enough money because that's your choice as to what you spend your money on, as to what you see is
House
necessary.
prices
So you're telling me a car's necessary?
Of course it's necessary.
Why?
Because we live in an era where cars are necessary to
Facts.
get around.
Why?
Because we do. That's
Why?
just the point.
Because the job market and most of these jobs are demanding that. They're demanding that you have your own transportation. A lot of these jobs, see, they're used to having jobs to where it was 2 to 3 miles away from their home or whatever. Most people are driving 30 on average, are driving 30 miles to work. Average. That's to work, not even back. You need a car. Not only to just get to work, you have to do grocery shopping. What about the other stuff you have to do? Hey, Gen Z, stay on their ass. We on the same team. Y'all got to remember that. I know y'all crack jokes on us millennials, but we the reason why y'all are the way y'all are. Stay on their ass, Gen Z.
What other alternatives are there then?
Well, you're missing the point.
We didn't have a
missing-
car
The
until...
world's evolved from then
Yes,
to
but
now.
you can't manage without a car.
We've got to put this argument to bed.
Just because she said she didn't have a car, yeah, but she probably lived 5 minutes from her place of employment. Or she's probably another one that stayed home for 10 years and let her husband go out and come back. And then when he came back, that's when she went to the store. The disconnect for me between the generation is ridiculous. Now, I wanted to go here. Sorry, we already went through. Oh, this list is crazy. You can't deny it. You can't deny it. Like I said, I don't even know how I make my bill payments. I have to decide if I'm gonna, I have to decide with my business if I'm gonna pay the electric bill the next 2 months, or I have to, because I have to keep up with the rent in order to stay on top of it. I can't be late on that. but the electric can wait a little bit. But then that bill accumulates to like a $400 to $500 bill, right? Given our current situation, my bill last year was only 120. Now I'm at 217 a month, bro. You can't deny it. The boomers are in the way. You're in the way. You're ruining it for everybody. You're being greedy, selfish individuals. I'm not saying give your money. What we're saying is move over. Get out the way so we can do what you're saying that we should do. We can't do that if you're in the way. You're taking, you can't share a seat on an airplane next to a very fat person if they're fat. The only way you can share that seat is if they make room. They have to make room for you to sit, for you to be comfortable. Let's go. Oh, speaking about that analogy, for example, last year on the plane ride, okay, I sat next to a very nice gentleman. I want to say he was in the middle. He was a hefty fella, probably 5'10", maybe 6 foot. Hefty, his belly was out there, big, dude. So, me, I got size on me. I work out. I work out. I ain't gonna say what I am, but I work out and I got wide, broad shoulders. I'm fit. So, when he goes and he sits or whatever, yo, I kid you not. Like I said, I'm not trying to slander the guy. He was a cool ass dude. Sat next to me, very respectful. He's like, man, I'm fat. I tried to get the aisle seat, but it was already taken. I said, yeah, I bought the aisle seat because, I'm guaranteed with how much water I drink, I got to go piss twice during the flight. Guaranteed. Now I don't want to be hopping in between people or whatever. So, the whole time he's sitting there with his arm crossed like this, because when he didn't, he took up all of the space. Now, the fact that I'm sitting in the aisle seat and we're both straight, I got to turn this way. I got to kind of angle my legs away from him. I'm 5'10", so I got to kind of angle my legs away from him. So, our legs are not touching. You know what I'm saying? So, he's like, man, I want to lose this weight. X, Y, and Z, bro. Me and him both had to sit in our seats with our arms crossed because he was so big that he was taking up space. He was aware of it though. Like I said, he was a cool gentleman. We had a chill ass conversation. You know what I'm saying? Two dudes that come from two completely different walks of life, and he listening to me, I'm listening to him, and it didn't get political or nothing crazy. You know what I'm saying? He was just like, yo, I want to lose weight. Well, just so happened with what I do, I can help him with that. So, we're just talking over that, but I'm just using that as an analogy as far as, boomers in this position and not moving, but saying we should do what they're recommending, but they're not moving out the way so we can do that. You have to move. You have to make room. You have to accommodate. That's one thing boomers haven't done. They haven't accommodated anyone else but themselves. That's all they care about. Right? And I just want to be clear, right? When we go to this list right here, okay? Like I said, when we just bought, our first home, we had up to, I want to say it was 42 bids. We lost 42 bids, and most of them was the boomers buying extra houses because they had the extra money, the cash. People were coming in. We're offering our max amount. People coming in with 50,000 cash over that shit. Nah, bro. Like, nah. Who else has that money? Not millennials. You can say, if we're going based off of the years, maybe some Gen Xers, like the older Gen Xers, but not the younger ones. A lot of those, those late 70s Gen Xers, they fall in the category with us millennials. That's the truth, And the same thing with us millennials. Like, I kind of feel, to an extent, if you were Gen Z is 1997 through 2012. I kind of feel like that should be stretched all the way to 99. But I'm cherry picking. But we have a lot more in common than we don't, and we're not the issue here. We're in the same boat as y'all, Gen Z. And y'all are the reason why a lot of this stuff is being talked about more. You know why? Because the boomers wouldn't listen to us. Gen X don't listen to us. We're the kids of them, right? The kids and the grandkids of them. But you guys, they're like, one thing I give Gen Z credit for is the fact that they see the bullshit that we go through, and they like, Gen Z step back like, bro, I ain't signing up for that shit. The fuck is you talking about? Man, I'm sitting there working. Why? That ain't called being lazy. That's called being self-aware. And I congratulate you guys for seeing it that way. Like, nah. Why would you want to get a single job and be miserable for the next 40 years and then after that try to enjoy your life when you're on the edge of life anyway? Why would you do that? You know, big thanks to, you know, like I said, it's the wrong fight to be battling millennials. Millennials ain't the issue here. Millennials are in the middle. And we're pretty much saying the same thing that you guys are saying. We've just been saying it longer. And a lot of people are tired of it. You have some of us that slipped through the cracks and made, I don't know why he peeking through this thing, right? But you have some people, you know, some of us that slip through the cracks. They may have a relative or somebody that can help them out in that situation or whatever the case may be. But most of us are in the same boat as y'all. Just been in that boat longer. Literally, you know. One thing in particular, and I'm gonna wrap this video up, is we understand that baby boomers are out of touch with reality. They just don't understand it. They think that they know everything, right? This same couple that I'm referring to used to always, I was their tech guy. They used to bring their computers, their cell phones. I used to have to come to their house and help them set up and write down the directions on a paper, each differently for both of them, because they don't understand how the remote works on a Fire Stick. These are the people that are making the choices for the collective. That's why we're in this shit now. We're not in this shit because millennials did some shit wrong. We're not in this shit because the younger generation of Gen X did some shit wrong. These are all boomers. Most silent generation are not here anymore. Most of them are not here anymore. And that's just the truth. Other countries, yes. But Americans don't live that long because we eat all this processed bullshit that our FDA and our government gives us. That's just the truth. But one thing I can say, right? And I got a friend or whatever, one of my boys. He told me some shit. I want to say this was like 4 or 5 years ago. He told me some shit. Now, mind you, I've been working for myself since 2016. Independent, you know. He told me, he was like, yo, when I clock in, right? Because I guess I never had a job where you had to, you know, when you clock in, I guess it tell you your expected. So every day you clock in, it gives you like your time or whatever, but it also gives you like your expected retirement date. Like I said, this man, he's older than me. He's in his 40s. You know what I'm saying? A few years older than me. You know what his time clock said? His expected. He's been at this company for like 20 years already. Do you know what that clock said? His expected retirement date if he kept working for that same company until X, Y, and Z. Guess what year it said that he would retire? This is someone that has been with the company for almost 20 years. It said his expected age of retirement is 92 years old. But let me guess, there's some kind of hard work that can reduce that. And that, let me help me, boomers, help me. It's hard labor that he does as well. It's construction. So you telling me that there's you can't outwork that. Even if he bust his ass for 10 years to reduce it down to 82. It'll never happen. It'll never happen. Gen Z, y'all doing a good job. Stay on their ass. Millennials, stay firm because they're gonna be dying off soon. That's just the case. We gotta vote them out and they dying off. Gen Z, vote responsibly, protest correctly, be safe. because that's the only way this shit changes. Will there be a wealth transfer? Yes, because when they die off, it has to go somewhere. I'm not saying money's going to be going to people. There's going to be more opportunity in the markets, in the jobs, and all that shit, right? So that's where things are going to change. Hopefully, I hope that everyone that's watching this video that's my age, slightly older, and younger can take advantage of that when it does happen. Because going back, like I said in this video, going back to these numbers right here, you can clearly see who dominates all of it. Boomers. That he said if everyone was to distribute the wealth equally, this is how much everyone will be able to take home, right? And this is not like I said, pretty much Gen Z. You're probably at like 1%, 1 trillion, da 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 da. We're not the reason. You see this, right? 7 trillion to 77 trillion. That's how much they out leverage the rest of everybody. You can't make the figures up. They're right there. They've been there. Vote them out. We gotta vote. We gotta vote everybody out. We gotta vote correctly and respectfully. No more voting in these oligarchs. No more. No. There are younger people that are fit for the job. Y'all just gotta move out the way. Ayo Bassel TV, hit the hype button for your boy. Thank you for viewing the channel. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. See y'all on the next one. Peace.